All right, Happy New Year. Welcome to Trade Secrets 2023, believe it or not. We are through our first year of the podcast, 17 episodes in, and it was a lot of fun, but we're excited as we kick off January 3rd today to do a little look back and a little bit of a look forward. This will probably be a short and sweet podcast as we kick off the new year, but before we dig into the looking backwards, we've got a new approach to the table. Paige changed her seat.
New year, new side.
New year, new
Gonna
side.
try it up. I tried it the first episode we ever did. Hated the angle. Then I think I just realized I'm always gonna hate seeing myself on like a video. So
is that true? You were over there in the first
day
episode?
One. Mm-hmm. And it is curious because we're now on Spotify, which is also awesome for 2022. Or, I'm sorry, 2023. But it'll be curious to see, do we get more listens or more watches? Because right now it seems to be more listens versus watches, even though, I don't know.
I would be more inclined to listen to it.
Yeah.
I think if I can just listen to it, because before I'd have to do YouTube.
Right, but you can listen to YouTube. You don't have to just watch YouTube.
But if you like close out of it and try to do something else, it stops playing. So I just, when I walk the dogs or when I'm driving, I listen to Spotify. So maybe I'll tune in this year.
Well, shout out to Kelsey for making Spotify happen as we wrapped up the year. Anything from you, Michael, new for 2023 before we dive into where we were in 2022?
No, I'm just trying to get acclimated to be on this side now. I hope that doesn't change our political outlooks.
That'd be a wild ride, right?
Yeah, good Lord. Could you imagine if they flip-flopped? That would be the best podcast ever. Paige and Michael flip-flop the aisle.
That would change a lot of things.
And we're doing dry January. So if you're watching, that explains why there's no bourbon today.
Mm-hmm. Very festive holiday seasons, and now we all joined the gym.
We all joined the gym yesterday. Totum perk. Come work for Totum. Free gym membership.
Paige actually described it as moist January, which is probably more in keeping with
Don't steal my hashtag,
with the accuracy of it.
Wet January, dry January, and moist January.
We're talking monsoon here.
All right.
I feel like damp January is probably more appropriate for a podcast, but
damp.
And why is it always raining when we do these things? It's wild.
Hashtag
Another day.
January.
Hashtag Matt brings the rain. Mm-hmm. So when we kicked off the podcast, we basically did the concept of a current event, a real estate topic, and a bourbon. So I thought it'd be cool to go back and see what current events we picked. Are they still relevant, or were we just reaching for something at the time? So our first one to kick off the year in 2022 was Ed Gainey, the new mayor of Pittsburgh. We're now 12 months in, and what are you guys' thoughts? Hot takes on, was the new mayor a good current event for 2022?
Oh, meet the new boss.
You don't need to raise
same as the old boss. What has he done? I don't know. I'm not obviously.
Well, you only seek out the news, or you only get the news you seek out, Michael.
That's not true. That's not true. I get all the news, but no, it's what has been accomplished, and I'm not coming up with a lot of tallies.
Well, I mean, and I said the same thing earlier today to Kevin. But I almost feel, and not to say that he hasn't done anything, but also I think a course correction of a ship like that, it's a bigger course correct. It takes longer. I think 1 year is a difficult period of time to gauge a position like that. I think what has impressed me about this new mayor, again, I said to Kevin earlier today, I have positive feelings about him overall. I can't list off to you 5 things that he has implemented and done, but what I feel good about is that I feel like he is engaging with a lot of different parties and listening. That's my hot take.
I think the nature of being elected mayor is you don't have a lot of time for course correction, so you have to be pretty dynamic in your first year. And maybe one of the things he's done is, I don't hear anything negative, but my question is what has actually been accomplished.
That's what I was going to say.
With affordable housing, they finally got cleared up the homeless encampments.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to that because
Yes.
that's one of our other
Further down the road.
further
Okay.
down the road
What
topics.
Quick
were you
hot
gonna-
take.
What were you going to say?
I think no news maybe is good news,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's status quo.
Yeah, status quo, and
Nothing bad.
nothing bad's better than
Nothing bad is better than a disaster.
right. And foreshadowing, we're going to talk about what we want to accomplish in 2023 on the podcast, and we would love for the mayor to join us to talk about downtown and what he's accomplished in the first year. So if you're out there listening, or any of your peeps are, we'd love to have you in and pick your brain about what the real estate community could do to help foster the administration's goals. So I think it was a great current event and still relevant, and probably could
Absolutely.
talk about it every year. Episode 2, we skipped a current event. Episode 3, we talked about Reed Smith announcing the return to the office on March 1st, 2022. I'm going to jump in and say not relevant because I don't think it happened. I think there was a lot of talk about it in March, but unfortunately, I don't think it ever happened.
They did. I think they did, but I think they didn't. Quick fact check.
Fact checked is they didn't. And even if
Okay.
they said they did, they didn't. I mean, we're downtown every day, and we're now in 1/3/2023, which we're 9 months later, and it's the close to the same occupancy as it was 9 months ago.
I disagree with that. I definitely think it has gotten busier downtown. Traffic has gotten worse. Parking has gotten
Smidge.
harder.
Yeah. No, I think I
I
agree.
would fact check that.
I agree. I think that there's a little bit more activity, and it seems to be building back up. But to the degree of this wholesale, moving back downtown, occupying everything, no, it's not there yet. But it's moving ahead. It's going in the right direction.
And I think if we fast forward to the December report for occupancy of downtown buildings, we're at like 30-odd%, and in March of 2022 we were at 20-some%. So incrementally it has gone up, but the news was they're coming back to the office, and people backlash it didn't happen.
Well,
Yeah.
and go ahead.
As an interesting benchmark, I don't necessarily know whether they're all going to move back the way we once knew that they would be back.
Right.
I think the hybrid work model is something that's not going away.
Especially for those larger firms. Like, I think at that point in time in February, March of 2022, we were looking to the larger companies
Sure.
as the guiding force. But I think those larger companies also have HR departments, and there are layers to the decision making there, and there are more employees that they have to appease or work with to make sure things work for the employees and they don't lose a bunch of people. It was a thing with PNC as well. PNC, why can't I think of his name? CEO.
Demchuk.
Yeah,
Bill.
Demchuk
Yeah.
was so adamant about bringing people back, but when
It
he
still
said they were
is.
going to return to fully in the office, they lost a bunch of teams that were recruited to other firms around the country, and then they had to change their decision, which Kelsey just fact-checked me and said it was the same exact scenario with Reed Smith. But that being said, I think we have seen smaller teams that want to be downtown. They want to have an office presence because of the culture and the recruiting. So
Who are a little more nimble, they don't have to deal with the bureaucracy of the ship.
right. So I think that's what's been interesting to me, is that we were all waiting for the larger companies to like firmly plant and bring the downtown back. And I think now my feeling is that it will be years, if ever, that it returns to like fully in-person large firms in the central business district. But that being said, we are seeing more activity with smaller teams wanting to be downtown and for the accessibility and the amenities and the ability to recruit more people rather than being somewhere out in the burbs, and the ability to bring in younger talent and retain younger talent. So I think that's interesting, like a very different outlook than what I personally had, and I think
Only 9 months ago, too.
right.
I mean, I think it's a fascinating current event.
Yeah, and I also think that you have to throw in there the cultural aspects of downtown. Pickle Fest is not what it used to be. The Arts Festival is completely shrunk down. Nothing occurs over at the Point.
But
Or
does that
very
impact the
little.
people that work downtown? I
No,
mean,
I think
don't
it does.
know
I
that
think
it
the
does.
I think it all
overall-
starts,
I think the
it all
overall
blends
feeling
together.
of the culture, it's a kind of a collective. This is why I want to be downtown. I don't think Market Square has gotten back. It's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not where you had that real dynamic.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Pittsburgh shows. I don't think they're all back to capacity where there's always something going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's work to do. I'm not saying that it's a lot better than it was during COVID, but
Yeah.
it's
But
still
return
something
to
that I think.
office March 1st, 2022 was a relevant topic. It's still super relevant today.
Sure, absolutely.
Not going away anytime
Absolutely.
soon. The next podcast, episode 4, I mean, it's crazy to think that this is still happening, was Russia invades the Ukraine. I think, and we're not going to have time to fact check this quick, but I'm pretty sure Michael said that gas was going to double, if not triple in price. That did not happen. It went up about 150%, but not double or triple.
Yeah, I missed the double part.
Well, you missed it by a lot. Yeah, he definitely said double. But so clearly still relevant. 9 months later, the war is still raging on. Lots of headlines even today, January 3rd. Ukraine has put up a formidable fight. And I think looking backwards 9 months, nobody thought it was going to be as equal as it is today. But I don't know, hot takes on that?
I don't know that I really have hot takes. No hot takes on that.
Don't want to go down a rabbit hole?
Yeah, for
Wow.
for brevity's purposes.
Are you shocked that it's still relevant? Like, it's still front page news?
I guess I don't think, like you said, I don't think anyone thought that Ukraine would be able to put up the fight that they did. I think it.
I mean, think about this. The president of the Ukraine has spoken to Congress and the House of Representatives in a joint session, one of only 4 people ever to do so in the history of our country. And that was in December of 2022. I think it's wild that it's still front page news.
I think it's wild that it's front page news. I think it's wild that it is still going on, but it's almost like Ukraine has become somewhat of its own industry. And it really strikes me as, all the great military strategists in the world, I simply do not understand how Russia couldn't go in there and take the country completely over. It's just not that big a place.
I know, but it's
so
like you.
why
you have
is it there? To me, again, the conspiracy theorist.
Oh
Why?
Jesus!
Why is
We've
it
gotta
something
kill-
that we put $50 billion into this place? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of armament, and we're not the only people funding Ukraine.
Are you shocked it's still front page news?
So wait,
No.
you don't understand.
This is why I didn't want to get into this one.
You don't understand how Ukraine hasn't been defeated yet? Or
Yeah,
you
I
don't-
really don't understand how they have survived Russia invading them at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I think that country and their president and their people just deserve like they have my utmost respect, because I think that's just a scenario of like those people were fighting with everything they had, like heart and soul, for their land.
It's remarkable.
Meanwhile,
Absolutely.
these soldiers from Russia didn't even know that they were going to war. You know, like
Yeah.
so it's just the difference between lack of buy-in and like fighting with every fiber of your being. It's like a David and Goliath. I hate to juxtapose a fictional story with something that's very real and very horrible that's happening. But I think it is like a little awe-inspiring that it is still happening, and that Russia or like Ukraine has held their own and had some like very landmark small victories in this.
Well, I think that's segue to that. David took out Goliath with one shot. It was a very quick fight. And Russia's still Goliath. I just don't understand To me, that there's unanswered questions that I haven't even thought of asking. So
I think, trying to keep it brief and on point about looking backwards and forward, it's pretty remarkable. 3 of our first 3 current events still legitimately front page news.
and
9, 10, 11 months later.
I might have gotten the double the guess wrong, but it has had a dramatic, absolutely dramatic economic effect on the rest of the planet.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, and I think
And
I
will
mean, I
for
think
years
it's-
to come.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's concerning when we look back at that story next year. That is a very large question mark, I would say.
Yep.
It would be a great story to say, yeah, it ended in February.
Right. So we went from super global to super to super hyper local. Our next current event was the Amazon deal on the Parkway East, and the Yimbies, Nimbies, and Yisbies effectively blowing up Amazon's biggest distribution center in Western Pennsylvania. Thoughts here? I mean, it's not in the news anymore because the deal's dead.
And I don't know that was even. I don't know that was the NIMBYs or the Yisbies blowing that up. I think that
It was definitely the Nimbies.
You think?
100%.
I feel like that could have blown up for a variety of reasons, like just having a lot of irons in the fire, the slowdown on demand after COVID kind of started to like tamper off.
No
Just
way.
a general
All
pull
NIMBYs.
out. Okay.
You can fact check it.
This
It's all-
is going to be the first agreement that Paige and I have for 2023.
I'm sticking
There we
with
go.
my flag.
Yeah, but
We agreed on something yesterday.
I think it was
forget what-
lunch.
Don't clients don't listen. They agree all the time when we're giving advice.
No, I actually think that it was certainly started because of the local social issues. We don't want this and we don't want that, but it was a nice, easy out for those guys. Amazon lost 50% of its value in 2022. And this was not the only place that they didn't move ahead with plans. The whole tech sector globally lost a lot of value last year. So was this a right sizing of that? I don't know. I think it was possibly, it would make me ask the next question, was it really that, or was that just you gave me the reason to no longer pursue this, and now I can just put this one on hold, because I know you're always going to be there when I want to
Well,
come
and I
back.
think anytime a deal that big dies, there's not one nail in the coffin. There's usually multiple contributing factors that just make it a no-go or
And
end
that
it.
decision gets
So,
made at a very high level, and those people at a very high level realize, maybe this isn't the best time, maybe this is the time to back away. So I think it had some cause to it, but I don't think it was the only one.
And I
So
think the overarching theme of that, I mean, that was the current event, but that topic that we later discussed in that episode, because of that current event, was, the not in my backyard camp, or, the people who fight commercial development for preservation of, what they have in their mind a
Status
place
quo.
should be, right, for fear of change. And I think that will always be a relevant topic. I don't think that's never not been something in this industry and in life that is present.
Yeah, that's not going away anytime soon.
I think they're always going to fight it, and I think that once it gets in there, they're always going to support whatever business goes in.
Right.
So,
All right, next up, we talked about downtown moves.
That's kind of the same thing.
this
Let's
was
skip
the-
that.
Well, no, it was the end of the first quarter. Tons of big announcements for moving corporations around in downtown. Dickey McCamey, Castle Bioscience. I would say that was a great current event. It has slowed down, though, a little bit. The announcements about big downtown moves have not been at the pace we saw in the first and second quarter of 2022. So it's still relevant. It's unfortunately relevant in a negative fashion in that we're not seeing those big names splash like we did. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
agreed.
Same.
Okay. The next one was similar, same time, lots of big announcements. K&L Gates acknowledged they were thinking about the vision at 15th and moving out of downtown. But I think that the real story there was that they were so far out from their lease renewal and they were already in the market. We expected that there would be a lot of, future-looking real estate conversations happening. I still think that's going on because I still think, back to our first or second topic, people haven't figured out what to do in terms of, do we need a seat for everybody who works at the company or a seat for 25% of the people who work at the company?
And I would actually say that whatever announcement was made 9 months ago, again, that's getting re-looked at.
Right.
For just reasons that we've got 9
Right.
months of experience doing
And I
this.
think after that current event, I believe we segued. I'll need fact checked on this also because I have admittedly not watched this episode, but I believe we segued into a discussion of how long things take in
Yeah.
this industry. So a company the size of K&L Gates, is that time and leverage? Yeah. So is that drastically far in advance of a lease expiration, or is that just
That's what it should
appropriate
be.
planning?
Yeah, for that big of a company.
Right.
Easily 3 to 4 years. So the next one's great. We talked, this is fantastic. We talked about President Trump's appraisal issues for some of his properties, courtesy of Cushman and Wakefield, and the hot water that he was in. So that was clearly a hot topic at the time. And I think everybody would say the hot topic has switched from appraisals to...
Oh, the dual representation part?
No,
No, what the-
with Trump.
Oh,
The news was appraisals
Taxes.
to taxes.
yeah.
A week ago, he released. Well, he didn't.
He didn't release it.
But I think
His personal tax returns got released.
separate things. Separate things.
Right, but the current event of the time was his nightmare around his real estate appraisals. I don't think that's a current event anymore.
Yeah, that's still being talked about for
Yeah,
sure.
actually,
They just ruled-
he was just
Yeah.
ruled I'm going to get this wrong, but they ruled against the company in the state of New York. The DA for New York, Letitia James, there was a ruling against Trump.
Right.
There was a penalty to be paid.
I think-
I'm not positive. I think it was a de minimis amount.
I think we're going to get fact checks on that
It's
too.
old news, though, from my perspective, compared to today's story.
Yeah, and
relative
it's
to Mr.
actually,
Trump.
I think the interesting part was, I thought that there was going to be a lot more blowback in the appraisal industry regarding this, and I don't think that there's been any.
No, it disappeared like yesterday's news.
Yeah.
Well, that's the great thing about Trump. It's the gift that keeps on giving if you want a news cycle. So,
Well, I
see
got
what
to tell
happens
you,
next month.
in terms of front page news, he is not. He was in the front page every single day when we did that podcast, and it's not today.
Yeah, That's-
He's definitely not on the front page every day today.
he has fallen.
Well, it depends
fallen
on.
from grace,
it
I think,
depends
in a
on,
lot of
Mainstream
what-
front page, not everybody. Not
Yeah. I think the.
You have to admit it slowed down.
Okay, now, if you
For-
flip to the interesting thing about the taxes, and his taxes, there were 2 or 3 years where he paid nothing. There were a couple of years that he paid an awful lot of money. He paid in, he had some significant loss carry forwards. This would have really gone, the last couple of podcasts when we were talking about how losses work with real estate.
Right.
And there was a lot of talk about how Trump used the tax code. I say tax code, not tax loopholes, because that's what it is. It's the code to offset gains and not pay taxes on them. And they all focus on Trump, but everybody does it. It's with the nature of real estate investment.
Well, we'll let somebody else figure that part
Yeah,
out.
that's not a.
You guys can make.
You're going to get audited. You're going to get audited this year,
clearly
Michael.
not, clearly not a
there's one thing
Trump-friendly table.
I learned in 2022 about this podcast is even when I think it's going to be quick, the two of you have a way about you of adding some good color. Interest rate increases. This was middle of the year, and we talked about the skyrocketing interest rates. they've relatively plateaued since that podcast.
There's going to be another hike.
Well, not since that podcast. There's been
No, there have been
there's
two
The
more.
concept of where it was going to go, meaning it hasn't, like,
Well, we haven't had the next open market committee meeting, but the most recent open market committee meeting was at 50 basis points. There's probably more coming. And after the last meeting, they just approved a $1.7 trillion spending bill. So I don't know. I think interest rates are going to go up, and interest rates have doubled.
they have.
Since they have doubled in a
And when we
very
had
short period of time.
When we had this podcast, we predicted a doubling. I don't predict another doubling.
Yeah, I don't predict another doubling because that would be a lot of increase in the cost of money. But it is affecting things, and it's affecting them based on money is just that much more expensive. And I don't see the end of that. I see an increase there, and I see another shoe dropping probably sometime towards the end of the first quarter into the second.
Paige, anything to add?
No, I mean, I think
Glad you
It's-
refinanced when you did.
sure am. I'm glad I purchased when I did, and I'm glad I refinanced when I did.
Yep.
A little pissed I didn't buy a car when I initially was going to.
Hey, we sat right in this table and told you
But
to
I
buy a
think that's
car.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I probably should have purchased a new car about 8 months prior to that, but you couldn't get one. So, the escape lives on.
So that-
But I will say with an increase in interest rates, as far as like what we have seen from a real estate perspective, there are still a lot of people out there that are still doing deals and looking to place capital places. I think people are just, I think maybe the rise in interest rates definitely has weeded some players out who were buying stuff in 2020 and 2021. But I think, there is still deal flow. I think maybe buyers and investors are just more strategic and cautious about where they place their money. But I think it's going to continue to go up. I think, that's what we need, inflation to come down. So raising the interest rates is being done to plateau inflation. So I think it is starting to work how it is intended to work. There's gonna be a squeeze, but no one seems to know how hard the squeeze is gonna be. So
next topic was CBRE getting sued for dual agency on a deal in Washington, D.C. There was a ruling. It has been appealed. It is going to the next level of the court system. Certainly still a topic that's relevant and near and dear to us, but not as much, I would say, front page news anymore.
Absolutely, and that's another thing that kind of shocked me. I thought there'd be a lot more blowback to that, but I think I'd
The rest of
agree.
the
I
world
think
just
it's
kept on
gone.
ticking.
I think that they're just trying to let the dust settle around it.
Right. Next one was all about independent contracting, but specifically the news of the day was Live Golf sues the PGA Tour for being a monopoly.
did anything happen with that?
Oh, it is definitely still a fight. A fight that I don't think is going to go away anytime soon.
Who's winning?
That's a great question.
I would say that the Live Golf Tour is winning.
I think Live Golf players being eligible to play in the Masters was a big blow to the PGA Tour.
Absolutely. I think the PGA is
Scrambling.
they're scrambling, and then they might see the writing on the wall.
Yep. So, still current event, and the independent contractor thing will never cease to amaze us here at Totum. Next was our first guest. We had Mr. Dolan from Discovery, and we talked about the cost of raising a child from childbirth to high school. I don't see anything about this anymore. It was all over the press at that moment in time, but it's just kind of been swept under the rug.
Still irrelevant for me.
But it's still it's still a
Still
relevant
very
thing.
relevant for me.
And the costs continue to go up. It's just that no one's talking about it.
Right.
Maybe there's just other things that they just decided to throw gas on the fire on.
Right. All right. Next one was the tent cities in Pittsburgh, the North Side, the city, riverscapes, just a very difficult thing for our city to endure. We actually took a little bit of a stand for the first time and wrote a letter to the powers to be across the local municipality, and nothing to do with that letter, but I think from a lot of
Local stakeholders.
stakeholders was
yeah.
the word I was looking for. That's exactly right. From a lot of stakeholders, the tent cities, both on the north side and the river, have been completely removed as of December 2022. So remarkable from my perspective. I did not. Had you made me bet the likelihood of that happening, I would have told you 2023 would have been year 2 of the tent city, not the tent city disappearing, at least in terms of downtown. Let's not mistake ourselves. They're still there on the fringes, but they're not at Main and Main anymore.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that is the answer to what has the mayor accomplished. And it's an interesting challenge, because I think moving them and eliminating them doesn't necessarily completely address the problem that exists, which is homelessness. But it's a start, and at least it's up front, and he's done something about it. He did clean up a very blighted area.
Yep. And I cannot wait, candidly, to get the boat back on the water and see what the river looks like without hundreds of red tents. So, very excited for the springtime. Next up was Paige Myers, rocking CCIM 101 and 103. I think she's, or no, just 101 at the time. You're on deck for 103.
Not yet.
Come
I got
on, why not?
Well, because
2023.
one is,
hashtag make it happen.
I'm going to. I will probably finish them in 2023, but they have only the ones that they have scheduled. It's a scheduling issue. The one that I could take is during the one vacation that I have planned, and so not going to take that.
Let's fact check that, Kelsey. How many CCIM 103s are available?
None of the dates work for me.
2023?
All right, I'm looking. None of the dates work for
Her
me.
schedule's booked, solid. Lot going on.
But no, I will take them. They haven't. I'm holding out for there to be a Pittsburgh one, but come hell or high water, 103 and 104 and whatever other ones I need to do will be completed in 2023.
The world is your oyster, and you're worried about it being in Pittsburgh instead of this wonderful
I'll
country to go
travel. The ones. All right, this is a rabbit hole.
visit? A good
We'll
rabbit hole.
review the schedule after this podcast. Okay.
Michael,
I look every
Michael
week.
and I are just
I look
going to
every
pick where
week.
you're going and send you. How about that?
Well, if the dates work, I'm not being picky. The dates
dates
just
work.
don't work.
If the dates
If
work.
the dates work. Oh
Such
my
a
gosh.
hectic
Should we call
social
your,
schedule.
Should we call your scheduler?
Call my people.
Yeah.
Call your people. Oh my gosh. You said that my calendar gives you anxiety.
Yeah, Kevin. The two things that I have planned to go out of town in the next 2 months are both when the next class I need to take is being offered elsewhere. So when they release more dates, I will go.
Sounds good. All right, next topic was the
Jeez.
local elections. This was in November, how important they are to development. In theory, all of those people who were elected in November are now in office. You guys pay attention to this way
In
more
theory.
than I In theory, that tells you how much I pay attention to it, but
That's right.
it's been pretty quiet, though.
Because
No?
the House of Representatives has not elected a speaker, therefore, no activity in the House can actually occur.
Right.
And they're on their fifth vote.
Well,
They
that was
just
at
finished
the
their
federal
fourth.
level, but even at the local level, I mean,
Well, I'm
it's
assuming
like
those guys
there was
are
no big news this year. January 3rd or 4th or 5th
No.
or 6th, I think, was the magic date.
I'm turning over a new leaf in my life where I'm going to be less publicly vocal about those
Excuse me.
things.
Oh my gosh. All right, our last topic of 2022
But check my Facebook. I'm kidding.
was FTX and BlockFi filed for bankruptcy. Clearly still relevant. We're only a couple weeks away from that podcast, and it will be very interesting to see how that shoe finally drops in 2023 and beyond. So, It was an awesome year. I thought we had a lot of good topics. Looking back at the list, by and large, majority of them are still relevant. Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest accomplishment is just that we kept doing this.
Yeah, we did.
In 2021, we're like, yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna try to do it. Every couple, or I think initially we were gonna do it once every 3 weeks. We kept to that.
Well, it's hard with your schedule.
So I am done with you. We're 3 days into the new year, and I am MC'd out.
23 is off to a great start.
Oh my God.
Tell our audience what our first group event of 2023 is going to be.
A brawl.
Oh
brawl.
My gosh.
You're going to have to bleep me on that.
I was actually thinking from a
the ski trip. I know.
No, from a professional perspective. Team development. What's our first event together? Next week.
The generational. Yeah, what is it called again?
IEE, generational.
Yeah, Pitt's Institute for Entrepreneurial Excellence. They do always have really good programming, but
the pitfalls and opportunities of generational teams.
Yeah.
Multi-generational teams.
That's
we
right.
can't wait. We're all going.
Trying to get us to be more accepting of one another.
And their perspectives and approaches to communication.
Yeah.
I found
Stop
bourbon is the most
blanking,
effective.
texting. Bourbon does help. All right, and on to bourbon. We tried a lot of different bourbons in 2022 as a group. We had no repeats, so I think we had 15. We took a couple off due to Lent. Rather than run through all of them, let's go with your best and your worst.
Well, I think it's safe to say Hirsch is the worst.
Hirsch, worst for me.
Yeah, that was horrible.
All right, so that's unanimous.
Real bad.
All of 22, we all can agree the worst bourbon we ever tasted was Hirsch. Sorry, whoever made it.
Yeah,
So.
I'm sure you're nice, but not great.
All right, your best, Paige.
I always like Blanton's. I think the Bradshaw, price point wise, taste wise, the Bradshaw might be my MVP of last year. Also because I will never forget how we stayed after that podcast and played guitar solos for 2 hours and danced and sang in the office.
Might have been the most fun podcast of the year.
We didn't all dance.
If we had had outtakes from post that podcast, that would have that could have been our claim to fame. But also, I think the one that really stands out to me is the Old Soul, just because I think it was great that was a gift from a client from watching the podcast, and I think that was but it was very thoughtful. And it was a good bourbon. It was delicious.
So which is it, Bradshaw or Old Soul?
Well, you'll probably pick Old Soul, so I'll stick with Bradshaw for the budget one.
Well, I could not make a decision because I didn't want anybody's feelings to get hurt.
So
and mostly
diplomatic
because
of you.
That's right. And I'm just trying to be so inclusive that I narrowed it down to the Larceny, the Bullet, the Old Soul, the Yellowstone, the Bradshaw, the Village, and the Blantons.
Jeez.
Everybody
And
gets a
Calumet Farms.
participation trophy.
That's right.
He's
So-
woke. Everybody
Yes,
gets a participation.
so I didn't want to make anyone feel bad.
The switching of the sides really has done something weird.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, really.
So everybody wins.
No, it's that Hirsch was crap.
But everybody else wins.
Yeah, no, but it's what I really think the issue is that I'm probably a very bad judge because I like it all.
Yeah.
And I didn't even touch on the Russell's Reserve, which was outstanding.
Well,
Why don't I remember that?
That's the first bourbon we had.
I'm a better simplifier of things, I suppose. My number 3 was Bradshaw.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was that a fun night, that's a really good bourbon that I had never had before. Number 2, which was new to me, was Yellowstone as a great runner-up. But
Great.
number 1, hands down, shout out to Jacob for the introduction to Old Soul. Fantastic bourbon. Michael just told me you can get it in West Virginia now.
Yeah, I just bought a bottle over Christmas. It was great.
So it's not,
Yeah.
you don't have to go all the way to, Mississippi or Alabama to pick it up. But
Yeah.
that was my number 1 for the year.
No, that was very good.
Cool.
That was very good. But you're not
So-
gonna do yourself bad trying any of those other ones. They
Except
were
for
really
Hirsch.
outstanding. Yeah, you could leave Hirsch on the shelf.
And, you might see it behind Paige, but we already have a couple on deck for 2023.
Once we all roll off the wagon.
Once we all roll off the wagon.
Yeah, I was really at a quandary.
jump,
I
'cause
was
we'll be
I was
thick.
thinking of jumping in trying the Casamigos tequila
Yeah, we're not
for
doing
today.
tequila.
But
All right, so 2023, here's what we've got in store. We are super excited about the guest lineup. Not going to give away names right this second, but we are in the process of scheduling an architect to talk about space design, interiors, return to the work, like what's it like to design space in 2023 for the companies that are committed to having people in the office. We're going to talk about real estate tax appeal. There is a huge industry around how bureaucracies tax real estate, and then how private individuals and investors can ensure that they're being appropriately taxed so that it's fair for all parties. Along those same lines, talk to a real estate attorney. We did plus or minus 60 or 70 leases / purchases / sales last year. I shouldn't say none of which. 99% of which did not take place without an attorney. So it's a really important piece of the puzzle. Can't wait to hear some perspective on that. Mentioned briefly the mayor. In addition to the mayor's office, we'd love to talk to our friends at Downtown Pittsburgh Alliance to hear what's going on. Partnership. That's my Cleveland coming out. Sorry. Downtown Cleveland Alliance versus the Downtown Pittsburgh Partnership. Would love to hear about what's going on downtown. There's been a lot of press. Could be our current event this week, but we chose not to, about the safety in downtown and just everything that's going on. So would be great to get Jeremy in your office in for a podcast. We already have on deck a national industrial developer to talk about what it's like building for Amazon and FedEx and UPS across the country in light of the world changing in today's both construction costs and demand. Going to talk to a banker because clearly interest rates have changed. Loan to values have changed, requirements for financing. So what's that look like as we embark on the year? And very excited to put the finishing touches on bringing in one of the chief operating officers of one of the largest commercial REITs in the country. So, we didn't start necessarily with the guest approach, but we have found it's been a really good way to round out the conversation, learn, and teach our clients some things. So we are pumped about
Very
Yeah.
2023.
Should we end it with a personal goal or a
Sure.
goal for 2023?
Personal?
Sure. Personal or work. I don't know. One of each.
One of each.
Do what you want.
Do what you want. That's Paige's goal. Do what you want. Sure. Since you toss it out there, go for it.
Oh, okay. Well, my professional-ish goal, I guess, would be the CCIM, finishing the CCIM classes.
Wow. Throwing it out there, the whole thing.
Yeah, how many? I think I have 5 more. 4 more, 5 more.
4 more.
Yeah.
Wow. Big goal.
But
Write that down. And get started soon. Love it. You got total support from Team Totum.
absolutely.
That's personal and professional?
no, that's like that's professional. Personal. Aside from being more patient with politics and less triggered, I think just generally being a healthier human being. We got our gym membership, starting the year with some sobriety.
It's good.
Got some ski trips planned, so I gotta get like my knees together, work on the lower body
Totem
strength.
ski trip coming 2023.
Totem ski trip.
February.
Yeah, so yeah, gonna get back into fighting shape.
I like it. My personal goals are similar on the front of getting a little bit healthier in 2023. I know that sounds cliche, but it is reality. And professionally, I got to tell you, David Mitros's trade secret about challenging yourself and trying to do things that are uncomfortable. That's my 2023 professional goal, is to really push the envelope and where Totum could take itself this coming year.
Well, I can just talk about the ski trip, which I will be attending, but I will not be skiing, because that goes into my personal goal, is I'm going to get my knee replaced. And that's what I have on tap, to get it replaced and get my knee back working the way it was supposed to be.
Knee surgeons in Pittsburgh, give us a call.
Yeah, give us a call. And you can be on the podcast, too, if you'd like.
We can talk about knee surgery.
Yeah.
Cool.
You have a professional one? Or nah.
No,
No.
no.
He's firing on all cylinders.
I'm
there.
firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and to that
Can't
point,
improve upon
my-
perfection.
My professional one is to help become a mentor and nurture those of a much younger generation to see the ways of the world.
there you go. That's a good one.
Yeah. What have you been doing for the last 3 years? Just feeding me bullshit?
Yeah, really, for the most part.
No, and in all seriousness, to both of you and to our clients, 22 was an incredible year. We did work in plus or minus 25 cities, 20 states, like I said, 60 or 70 transactions, blew the records off the door in terms of revenue and profitability. And
Blew the records off the door? I don't think that's how that goes.
My
I don't think that's how
professional
that
goal
goes
is to
either.
help
The
Kevin
doors
work
off
on his
the-
cliches.
cliches are bad.
The roof off the house, the doors off the...
Hinges. There we go. Blew the doors off the hinges. No, it was an incredibly humbling and successful year. So thank you to you both.
Yeah,
And pumped up about what we're going to do in 2023. So
likewise.
give us a like on Spotify, YouTube. Reach out if you've got an idea for a guest or you want to be a guest. We actually got an application for somebody who wanted to be a guest, which was awesome. So we're pumped and we're excited to see where it goes next year.
Yeah.
Rock
Yeah,
on.
that
Right.
application thing, I don't believe there's a form for that.
No, just call Kelsey. All right, that's a wrap.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.